Hey guys, Claire here, and in today's video, we're going to talk about all things Harry and Meghan. So, from a "We love you, Harry" in the crowds outside of the Invictus Games reception to a standing ovation right before Prince Harry gives his opening speech at the opening ceremony of the Invictus Games, it's been a really good week for Sussex watching. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I personally feel like when it comes to conversations centering mental health or veterans, this is where Prince Harry shines. You can see how passionate he is about it, how much work him and the foundation puts into it, and this week has been no exception. Now, from the very beginning, we've seen the people of Germany show up and show out. Now, I'm not surprised because last year when Harry and Meghan visited, the crowds were there and they were just as festive, just as warm and inviting. So this year's reception is not a surprise to me. Seeing a stadium packed of 20,000 plus people for the opening ceremony of the Invictus Games was a sight to behold. Prince Harry's speech, and for a man who says that giving a speech makes him very uncomfortable, his oration and just aura and energy while giving a speech has come a very long way. And I think that this speech for the opening ceremony was one of his best. Now, I'm not sure if I can add the whole thing. I'm pretty sure, like, if you watch my channel, chances are you've heard the video or you've gotten to hear it in real time, because I know while I was listening to it live, I saw a lot of you right there in the live chat talking and taking it all in. But that speech, phenomenal. Now, if you haven't seen it or you're interested in watching the Invictus Games, it's not too late. It's still ongoing, and I'll leave the link to the Invictus Games Foundation in the description box below. Click on it and you can get to see the live stream. Seeing the team members, their family, and the different delegations of the participating countries has been such a treat. We saw Prince Harry with the delegations, like, well, almost all of them, quite honestly. He's done a really fantastic job of meeting with everyone, of giving each and every individual team just a little slice of him, listening to them, talking to them, interacting with them. And I feel like every little kid or every dog within that arena is driven to Harry. We've seen so many photos of all the little ones just flocking to him like moths to a flame. It's really adorable. Not surprising, because if we watched Prince Harry for a while, you know he loves kids and he loves the pups. Now, I've also seen some conversations on social media concerning the lack of support from the British royal family, namely King Charles, as it relates to showing, well, absolutely no support for Team UK. And a lot of people saying this was a grand occasion for Charles to really show the type of person he is, the type of monarch that he is, to rise above his petty indifferences and support Team UK. Not necessarily Harry, didn't have to say a word about Harry, but you are the monarch. You traipse around in military regalia. You, your brothers, your sister. How many of you have actually actively served? How many of you could barely make it through training? How many of you did not even train at all? Yet we constantly see them walking around in full military regalia and all those fancy buttons, badges, and bows. And not one person had anything to offer to Team UK. Petty. Petty. It doesn't make Harry look bad. It makes Charles and that institution look bad. But then again, I feel like a lot of the things that they've done concerning the response to Harry and Meghan just makes it seem as a very petty and messy type of institution. What do you guys think? Now, while this discourse was happening, we soon saw articles saying that Charles had offered some congratulations to Kim Jong-un on North Korea's anniversary. And that sent the girls into a tizzy. People are like, are you kidding me? This is who and what you want to support publicly, not your own veterans? So yeah, as with most things, a lot of people have the idea that the royal establishment and the king is just so incredible, and they're so classy, and they're honorable and upstanding. But then there's a very stark difference between the expectation and the actuality. Just saying.
You met Prince Harry for the first time. This was 2 days ago you met him for the first time.
Last night.
Yeah, last night.
Last night, yeah.
So what was that like?
I don't know, it was surreal. It was just, one of those moments I can't really say, because we read a lot about him, and you see him on TV, and there's all these notions we think about him, but meeting him in person just it changed everything, because for me, I realized like he's so human, and he's so down to earth, and very he connects with the people. And there was an incident when we were sitting at the stand, and there was this guy that came, and he was like, please, Prince Harry, could you hold this picture of, I think it was a family member that had passed away during the war, and he wanted a photo of Prince Harry holding the picture of the family member. And I was thinking, I was so nervous, because I thought like, that was, and he just went like, oh, is this your family member? Yeah, sure, no problem. And he held the picture, and I just thought to myself, look at that. I am still like soaking it in, but I think these are some of the leaders that we need in this world. People.
Now, while the Commonwealth Games is having difficulties getting host cities, the Invictus Games has no such problem. We know that the next Invictus Games after the current one will be in Canada. And so far this week, we've read that 2 countries are attempting to put their hats in the ring to host future Invictus Games events. The first of which is Korea, and the second is Italy. Also, I saw that there was some talk of Kenya possibly joining in on the Invictus Game family, which is awesome.
My name is DeMarcus Garrett, born in Dallas, Texas. I entered the Air Force Wounded Warrior program because of a motorcycle accident that I was in while I was active duty. After joining the program, I went to a Warrior Games. After the Warrior Games, I ended up making it on the Invictus team. Playing in the wheelchair rugby, this is definitely by far my most favorite sport of all the sports. It's rough, definitely hurt your fingers out there, but it's definitely fulfilling at the same time when you see your team make all the goals and the camaraderie and everything between both teams. We might be enemies on the court, but as soon as the game is over with, we're friends all over again. There's smiles everywhere. What the power of sport has given me, a sense of purpose. You can ask a lot of us. Preparing and competing for these games gives us a sense of purpose that we basically lost after our injuries or anything, like our illnesses and stuff like that. We were told that we were not going to be able to do stuff, and then we overcame it and still were able to compete. I was told I would never be able to serve the rest of my military career, and I made it back active duty. I would say perseverance is definitely what's going on. If you're thinking about becoming part of the Invictus Games, I say go for it. Whether it be if you're an injured or visible or invisible wound athlete, or a prior service member, or even just a volunteer, the atmosphere is great. It's a big family. Like 21 different countries are here right now, and we all treat each other like family. There are no enemies here. You can feel the love and feel how everybody's going with it.
Now, we've seen Harry with Nigeria's Minister of Defense, even saw him with some people of the U.S. delegation that was sent by President Biden, such as Senator Bill Nelson, who, of course, is the NASA administrator as well. Harry even did a show, which I think was called Sports Studio, and that was a very interesting watch. He played a little ball. It was fun. But before he even got to the show, there was this adorable video of two little boys, and it looked like their dad was on the side. And they noticed that he drived up, and they collectively called out to Harry and wanted to take a picture. And he was so gentle and kind with them. They are so sweet.
Prince Harry, please picture. Please picture.
Geht mal bitte weiter nach hinten.
Hello, Prince Harry. Could you ask what's your name? Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Please picture. My name
Yes, of
is
course.
Owen.
Come. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
And again, that totally connects with all of the little kids who are there to cheer on their moms and dads who are competing, just coming up to Harry and taking selfies and talking to him. It's truly wonderful. Now, for those of you who don't know, a couple months ago, there was talk of a new cookbook for World Central Kitchen, and that cookbook is finally out. Now, you can get that on, well, anywhere books are sold, including Amazon. Of course, we know that there's lots of high-profile public figures who have given their recipes to be a part of this book, and of course, Meghan contributed to the book as well. I believe it was a lemon cake. I will be buying that book and adding it to my collection of books from or related to Harry and Meghan, and I'm definitely going to be trying out that lemon cake. Now, we have seen photos of Meghan getting In-N-Out burgers, which made breaking news in the UK tabloids. I'm like, good lord, a woman going to get burgers in a drive-thru makes like headline news. What? There was also a very sweet moment where one of the competitors proposed to his love at the Invictus Games. So congratulations to the happy couple. Now, Meghan has joined Harry in Dusseldorf, attending a private dinner with competitors of the Invictus Games. Now, of course, she looks quite chic in what is rumored to be a Banana Republic dress. And of course, Harry looks happy to have her by his side. I've really enjoyed the little speeches that both Harry and Meghan gave, and of course, seeing all the wonderful photos with the different competitors. And of course, my favorite, if you've watched Heart of Invictus, then you recognize her as one of the members of Team Ukraine. So I am so looking forward to seeing much more of the Invictus Games, and of course, seeing more of Harry and Meghan. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Bye.
Do that. And with Prince Harry, that himself giving that kind of sense of how proud he is of all of you. And am I right? I'm told you met him a few days ago.
I did. And the first thing I did was get my phone out and show a picture of my little girl, who's also a redhead. And the face she was pulling, he went, "My little girl does that face." But you mentioned him. I mean, without Prince Harry's advocacy, our nation's relationship with our veterans would be completely different. Because as grateful as I am for giving me a voice, and as a veteran of the Tigers and as a serving Army reservist, you're giving us a voice. But often the media can, perhaps portray us in a different way. This is a positive and the reality of what it is like to be a veteran in 2023. The Invictus is the embodiment of that. And I was reminded of it behind stage as I was getting ready to lift. I was stood next to a huge Danish veteran, also a veteran of Afghanistan, and we were swapping stories. We hugged, we held hands, and there was a human moment through shared service that will stay with me as part of my Invictus memory.
Prince Harry and Meghan are often accused of using their royal titles or connections to generate publicity for themselves. However, after the last few days, I would argue the exact opposite is happening, because William and Kate are absolutely using their connection to Harry and Meghan to hopefully generate their own publicity. If it had only been one event, maybe it could be brushed off as a coincidence. But William and Kate essentially spent the entire weekend making sure that their names were attached to Meghan and Harry's, starting on Thursday. Harry attended the Well Child Awards, which is an annual ceremony held on or around the same day each year. And Harry attending is not surprising. This year, I believe, was his 12th appearance at the awards. So William choosing to hold his first work event in 2 months on the exact same day that Harry would be at the ceremony is at minimum suspicious. It's hard to believe that this is the only day he could have held his event. But as I said, I think William used this to his advantage to get more press because he knew the headlines would undoubtedly compare his event to Harry's. Then there was the podcast. William and Kate sat down with Princess Anne and Mike Tyndall for an episode of Mike's podcast to discuss rugby and sports on the same day as the opening ceremonies of the Invictus Games. And again, they knew the timing of this would get picked up in comparison to Harry and his event, and they would get more coverage. Because honestly, William and Kate participating in a local podcast is nowhere near the level of the global Invictus Games. International news outlets are talking about Invictus, and I would guess that outside of the UK or Royalist, most people don't know that Mike Tyndall has a podcast. Personally, I didn't even know there was a Mike Tyndall until a few months ago. And while we're on the topic of the podcast, let's talk for a minute about the obvious double standards from the UK media. When Meghan had a podcast, it was something a royal shouldn't do. When Meghan crossed her legs, it was not the way a duchess should sit. But when Kate does it, in the video of the podcast, not a word is said. When Meghan dances at a concert, she's accused of twerking and partying and not behaving how a royal should. But when it is said in the podcast that Kate is so competitive at beer pong, the headlines announce it as if it makes Kate young and relatable. On Sunday, during the first day of competition for the Invictus Games, William and Kate attended rugby matches separately. Now, this could have been an attempt to latch onto Harry's publicity, or possibly to recover from the disastrous decision to not attend the Women's World Cup final. But either way, if Harry and Meghan had attended these events separately and taken a helicopter ride as well as 2 individual private flights in the span of 72 hours, there would have been not only more divorce rumors, but headlines saying that they were destroying the environment. More double standards. And we can't talk about Kate attending the rugby match without talking about what she wore. Honestly, that's what she wanted. People talking about what she wore. From her hair to her jewelry, her clothes, and her shoes. Kate is dressed almost identically to Meghan's outfit from 1 year ago when she and Harry visited Dusseldorf in preparation for the Invictus Games. Knowing that everyone is talking about the Invictus Games right now, wearing an outfit so similar to the one Meghan wore was guaranteed to get Kate talked about. And I'm sure that some people would argue that Meghan doesn't own white power suits. And while that might be true, it is interesting to look at the times when Kate's fashion tends to copy Meghan's. Now, I don't follow royal fashion as much as others, but it seems to me that when Kate has an event that is more historically royal, like a church service, or maybe the royal ascot, her fashion choices lean toward more classically royal pieces. Personal opinion, they feel somewhat stiff and dated, like the photo on the right. But when Kate is on a different type of royal outing, maybe one that would appeal to a younger generation, like a sporting event, Kate tends to dress more like Meghan, choosing clothes that feel more like modern royalty. And this weekend, she needed to appeal to a younger generation. She needed to be noticed. But what Kate hasn't noticed, and what none of the other members of the royal family seem to have noticed, is that while they're busy chasing Harry and Meghan's spotlight, the support for the monarchy is waning. Many royal events in Britain and Scotland this year saw protesters declaring that Charles is not their king. More and more Commonwealth countries are taking steps to become republics, and Caribbean countries recently declared that they will be demanding reparations from the royal family itself. And in thinking about that, about how tender the balance seems to be between the royal family and the Commonwealth, I was struck by this photo. Prince Harry walking beside the flags of 21 nations, all participants of the Invictus Games this year. And I thought how incredible it is for him to be able to peacefully bring members of these 21 nations together with their different beliefs, different languages, different religions, and unite them all for a common cause. To bring together soldiers from around the world, to have those soldiers run in a lane next to someone who maybe used to stand across from them on a battlefield, and to see them now pause and help the person next to them regardless of what team they're on, because really, they're all on the same team. The Invictus Games is the best of humanity at its core. Harry has built a community of nations on his own. And these people, these nations, want to follow him, not because they were forced to, but because they see him as a worthy leader.
I never, ever, ever want to be told that the press is bored with Meghan Markle. The thing is, and I always tell people who say this the same thing, they say, we just don't want to see them in the press anymore. They need to stop putting themselves in the press. Meghan is in an In-N-Out drive-thru, and she's getting put on multiple news sites for going to In-N-Out in an expensive Range Rover. Literally. How is that putting yourself in the headlines? They've done barely anything this year to be put in the headlines, and they haven't done anything as like controversial or anything this year. So, except for Spare being released. That's literally it. They did Spare, and he went to the King's coronation, and they had the award ceremony for Meghan and the car chase. That's literally like basically what they've done. That's like been put out there. Meghan has barely left the house. And when she does, it's on the news. She goes to a farmer's market, it's on the news. She goes for a hike, it's on the news. She goes shopping with a friend, it's on the news. That's not doing things when you're just living your life, going out to eat, getting a burger. That's not putting yourself out to be on the news. Like if you're put on the news, you're put on the news. But like she's not doing anything. They literally, and the thing is, it was 9/11. Shouldn't have been a slow news day. They could have spent their time writing about something actually meaningful that like is newsworthy. This is not newsworthy. Every Californian goes to In-N-Out. Every single one of us, at least once, unless like you don't eat burgers. So it's really like just pathetic because it just shows that they know Meghan Markle gets clicks. This is why this is written. And I know it wasn't just Daily Mail. I know it was People too and other news sites. But it's like, that's why the American media started reporting on her so much, because they saw what it's doing with the UK media and how much clicks they get and how much money they make off of her. So they just started doing it here. So don't say you are bored with Meghan Markle when these things are being written. Do not tell me the media is bored with them when she can't go to an In-N-Out without being written about. And honestly, I think the bitterness comes from too that they can afford this without the taxpayers and daddy's money. Like they did that. And they like report about, oh my gosh, $140K Range Rover. But then on the other side, try to say, they're broke. They're losing their home. They don't have any money. But then this is the headline. Like, make up your mind. You want to write about how expensive of a car they have. That means they make money. But then you also want to say they're broke. So it's like, make up your mind. I love Meghan, love stories about her. But like, did anyone like need to know this? I don't need to know when any celebrity, no matter how much I love them, is in an In-N-Out drive-thru. But I love the smile on her face because that's how all of us look when we're in an In-N-Out drive-thru.
The Duchess of Sussex has officially arrived at the Invictus Games, joining her husband Prince Harry for a friends and family event this evening.
Really
that Invictus is not at all about fashion, but I do have to say, I think both Harry and Meghan look fantastic. And I don't think it's just the clothes. They both seem to glow just a little bit more whenever they are around each other.
The fact of the matter is, everybody in this room has some form of a shared experience. So use this moment to connect with each other, swap photos, swap numbers. You can airdrop photos without even needing to share your number these days. It's fantastic. And if you're lucky, I maybe did the triangle with the band later. Have a wonderful evening.
Photographs were shared of Meghan meeting one of the athletes from Team Nigeria, both Harry and Meghan wearing their handmade Invictus bracelets from Team Canada, and of the two of them looking quite happy to be reunited. But I think this is my favorite photo. Meghan and Harry with Tyra from Team Ukraine. There's just something almost joyful about it. I think sometimes the simplest gestures can mean so much. And here are a few more photos from tonight, and as always, our favorite couple reaching for each other's hand.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, hit that notification bell.